Where were we? Last we talked, the Eagles had their draft. Are they going to sign Dallas Goedert? Are they going to bring him back? Are they going to extend Jordan Davis, pick up his fifth-year option? Zach Berman's going to tell me, or maybe it's already happened. Coming up next on the PHLY Eagles podcast. To the PHLY Eagles podcast presented by TrueMark Financial. Bo Wulf back. Very happy to be next to my friend, Zach Berman. Zach, how are you? Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, good to see you. Welcome back. We missed you.
I missed you. Nice job shepherding the show as I was gone. I appreciate that.
Just trying to be the second best host in the city.
I feel like you should keep overtime, though.
I was playing into it, right? So you'd look over at me and I
maybe I'll let you do overtime.
Overtime? Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Is it fair to say that today marks the height of your lifelong interest in Catholicism?
Does it mark the height of it?
This has got to be the highest you've ever been on Catholicism.
I mean, I've respected Catholicism for a long time, but it is cool to have someone with Philly ties or Villanova ties.
A new pope from right over where? He went to school.
Right over that way.
Yeah, close enough, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so no, he's a Chicago guy. We can't take credit for it. CHGO can take credit for it. But he did, who's
to say where his parents met?
Yeah, I don't know.
Could be a Bryce Young situation.
I don't know about that, but we probably had pizza at the same spot. So actually, I don't know if the long-standing pizza spots there, but we've certainly walked on the same roads. So that's pretty cool.
Maybe one day it'll be you
as the Pope. I don't think so. There's some things that I think I have a chance of doing. The Pope, I don't think I'll be the Pope.
Who do you think is his favorite Villanova basketball player?
Ooh, Alvin Williams.
Okay.
Yeah. Who do you think?
I don't know.
Okay. Who's your favorite
Dante
Pope?
DiVincenzo.
Who's your favorite Pope?
My favorite Pope, probably Troy Maine Pope.
Okay.
Or Eddie Pope.
Okay.
How about you?
Olivia Pope. Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
You familiar with
culture?
You familiar with that one?
I think so.
Okay. Good show.
That's good pop culture for you.
Thank you.
All right. We got a lot to talk about, Zach. And I want to frame this whole thing around the two big decisions that the Eagles made since you and I last spoke. And that was the decision
on the show. I've texted you.
Okay. But
I haven't wanted to bother you.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you very much. The decision to pick up the fifth-year option on Jordan Davis, and the decision yesterday that you helped report about this reworked contract for Dallas Goedert. So I'm going to start my first question to you is, how much money do you think Jordan Davis owes Dallas Goedert?
And what do you mean by that? Because I saw the
are they borrowing?
Here.
Are they? I know that these are different years.
Yeah.
Are they borrowing money from Dallas Goedert in order to pay Jordan Davis? What's the appropriate gift for Jordan Davis to give to Dallas Goedert?
Yeah, I don't think the two events are related at all. But I do think, actually, I was texting with some people. Goddard got more than I think the Eagles might have initially allocated for tight end this year. Now it's a pay cut. There's no other way around it. And he, I know it's been portrayed as a selfless act on his part. I don't know what the other offers were. I can't imagine that he surrendered.
Not that it's not selfless, but it's not like he's not doing this out of the
I think the market probably spoke. I mean, he did have his fewest receptions, yards, and touchdowns since his rookie year last year. So there is a degree of him needing to rebuild his stock, perhaps, similar to Josh Sweat.
The reason that I think that these two things are connected is I disagree with you a little bit about the degree to which Dallas Goedert was like ever going to be traded.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think that so much of this was the framing from the Eagles of, crying poor, and
I don't know if it was crying poor.
We can't afford to pay B players A money, right? Well, that is precisely what they're doing with Jordan Davis. And I know that is next year's cap. And you can say that maybe you're counting on the cap going to rise. And so 14.5 next year is not going to be as much as 14.5 this year. And this is a 26-year-old as opposed to a guy who's declining. But Dallas Goedert missed 7 games last year, right? And can't stay healthy. Missed 7 games, played 39% of the snaps.
Yeah.
Jordan Davis played all 17 games and played 37% of the snaps. To pay him $14.5 million, you cannot tell me we as an organization can no longer afford to pay our good players great money. And I think that this result with Dallas Goedert is the result that Howie Roseman wanted all along. I think he played it very well. And if you want this outcome, you have to be willing to trade the guy.
Sure.
But I think that bringing back Dallas Goedert for a pay cut is exactly what he thought was the best case scenario here.
Oh, I agree with that. I just don't think they thought it might get to that point. Like, I think Goddard probably expected a bigger market. I think the Eagles probably thought there would be a bigger market for Goddard. I do think the Eagles were prepared to go into next year without him. And I also think that the Eagles were not, under any circumstance, going to pay him $14.25 million to play this season for them. But I agree with you that I think this was the desired outcome. And this, frankly, like I said, $10 million might be more than what they had allocated for the position, but I don't think it's like dramatically more. And I think I think their number is closer to 10 than 14.25, right? So, like I think him taking the $4.25 million pay cut this year is a bigger cut than the Eagles kind of went up. So I don't think they met in the middle, right? I think this was meeting closer to the Eagles number. Sure,
but I also think, Dallas Goedert doesn't want to take this all the way to training camp, right? But this is a team, in its literal Super Bowl window, right? They're not going to just. I don't believe that they were ever going to just release the guy without a true plan B.
I was skeptical about the releasing part of it.
I think
they thought there was going to be a bigger market.
Gamesmanship.
Perhaps I would say perhaps since free agency, but this is the thing. Everything's dynamic, and what I mean by that is if 2 tight ends go in the top 13 and Tyler Warren's not there for the Colts, then the Colts might be compelled to make that trade. Like the Colts wanted to upgrade at tight end this year.
Sure, and everything has a price, right?
Yeah.
And so, the Eagles, it's not that the Colts would have made the trade. It's that they would have met whatever it was worth for the Eagles to move on from Dallas Goedert.
Yes, exactly. If the Jags didn't cut Evan Ingram and, Evan Ingram doesn't become available for free, then perhaps the Broncos trade for Dallas Goedert, right? So, there weren't that many seats at the table at the end for tight end, and then also if the board falls a little differently and the Eagles take Harold Fannin Jr., they might be less compelled to pay Dallas Goedert $10 million, right? So that's why I think Fran put it well in the emergency show yesterday that a lot of this was just a product of timing. Like it just made sense from a timing perspective after the draft for this to happen. But I do agree with you that I think post free agency, there was probably gamesmanship because Howie probably saw where the tight end seats were and probably realized that Dallas's best option was coming back here, but that they had to present the realistic possibility that they were ready to move on. But everything that I heard going back to like the Super Bowl was that it doesn't sound like Goddard's going to be back, right? And so I think as the Eagles were doing their offseason planning, I think it wasn't to pay Goddard at that number. Like he had no guaranteed money left on his deal. And I think Goddard's camp, and I can't speak for them, but I think Goddard's camp probably thought Goddard was going to be valued more than what he ended up signing with for the Eagles.
I think in order to play this game, you have to be willing to move on from him. But I do think it was overstated, and I think a lot of those whispers were intentional. And things about when they're talking about him publicly, going over the top of like, well, like we're only going to talk about guys who are here or whatever it is. Like, oftentimes, if they're going that hard in one direction, it is a negotiating tactic. And I do think that as you survey the scene, it is the comparison has been drawn to the Josh Sweat situation from last year, which is totally fair. It is not only does this guy need to find someone else who's willing to pay him what he wants to make, but then there also has to be the trade compensation. And so if the Eagles are playing the game of, well, no one's willing to pay you that, and if they're going to pay you, 11 or whatever it is, but we're not going to give them to you for free, like we still got to make a trade. At that point, like the options aren't so great for Dallas Goedert. So they held the leverage.
Yeah, they had the leverage here, but I said yesterday, you're as loyal as your options, and that worked for both sides. I think neither side had an appealing plan B, and so I think there's a reason why this happened after the draft, right? If this was the eventual outcome all along, then why wasn't it April 1st or April 15th, right? Like the impetus of this was, I think, both sides seeing the Eagles, like you said, they're in the window. Tight end is important, and they don't have anyone. They can talk up Calcaterra's development or Harrison Bryant. Dallas Goedert significantly better. I believe what I said to Rich yesterday, that the delta at tight end might be more dramatic than any other spot on the roster. Maybe quarterback, but actually probably wide receiver 1, let's say. But I mean, it's certainly up there. Like the delta at tight end significant.
We'll go wide receiver.
Wide receiver. Okay. But it is significant. And so I think that the Eagles saw their best option is to have Dallas Goedert on the team. And then I think Dallas Goedert saw that there's not a better football option for him, and I don't think there was a better financial option for him either.
Yeah, I mean, you keep your options open. And so
exactly.
if it did happen that they were on the clock and a tight end made the most sense for them in the second or third round, then maybe this would have gone a different way. But I don't really buy that the Eagles are giving up a lot to pay him $10 million. Like, even if they were hoping to pay him $8 million, like this is a very good outcome for them. I think
exactly. Yeah. 100%. And that's but they weren't going to bring him back at if this was just a bluff, then Dallas Goedert would have said, Dallas Goedert would have played the bluff.
Of a bluff.
But if it was a bluff, it was a bluff. It would have been getting him back at 14.25. If the bluff was we're not going to trade you, then calling him on, by definition, calling him on the bluff is saying, if you're not going to trade me, then I'm just going to come back and you're going to pay me what my contract says you're going to pay. The Eagles were not going to pay what the contract says they were going to pay. That is why he took a pay cut. It's a great question. I think
if Dallas Goedert took this to training camp, how do you think it would have played out?
I think they would have. I think they would have just traded him for whatever.
We haven't had a holdout in a while.
No, we've had a hold in. Hassan Reddick was kind of Hassan Reddick had a convenient injury, when camp happened. But yeah, I'm not defending them here, but the idea of them crying poor, I think it's more crying responsible. Like they're number 4 in cash spending this year. They're number 2 in cash spending next year. Number 1 in cash to cap ratio. They're number 1 in projected cash spending in 27. If they can't just pay everybody market value. That's the reality.
Well, then let's twist it to Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
Sell me on why you pick up his 5th-year option, because it doesn't seem like money well spent to me.
Yeah. So there's a few things here. Number 1. It's what, $12.938 million. So that's not among the top 25 defensive tackles in the league, but it is, to your point, it is that middle class that they've kind of tried to avoid. But that aside, I think their fear was not picking up the option. Davis fulfilling the potential that they think that, I'm not saying Vic thinks he has, but that Howie might still think he has, and that he hits the open market next year and he is a $20 million a year player, because that's what he would be. A Liam McNeil made over $20 million. That's what Jordan Davis's market would be if Jordan Davis has a successful year this year. So I think they looked at it and they said, if the worst case scenario is that you're getting what he did last year, it's an overpay at 12.93, but it's not as dramatic of an overpay as what the savings would be if he is an impact player this year. I think Howie thinks he has another year. Now the question is, does Vic Fangio think he has another year? And they're going to show you with how much they use him. right? This isn't going to be what they say, either behind the scenes or publicly. This is going to be seen by how much they trust him on the field, and time's going to tell. But I genuinely think they looked at it like, to use Howie's term, the tools in the body are there. I think they like the makeup of the person, and I think they think there's another level that he can get to. You've made the point in the past that defensive tackles tend to be a slower developing position in terms of reaching your peak performance. Now, it has been 3 years, and the playing time is what it is. I mean, that's not injury related. It's. I don't even think it's conditioning related.
Oh, I think it's
no. But I think they made the determination often that that he wasn't as productive as their other options.
Yeah, but I think the conditioning does have some.
Sure.
Has
Yeah. True. Okay. Yeah. I take that back.
But he's also not one of their two best interior pass rushers.
Exactly.
Even if he was conditioned. Yeah.
I don't think he was affecting the quarterback enough. But this is a position that
now they will point to. He had 2 sacks in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he's playing his best ball then. The argument that the delta between if he has this pop year and what he would get paid next offseason versus what he gets paid this year is true, but also if he has that pop year, you're going to want to extend him anyway.
Sure.
Right? And so we're talking about 26-year-olds. So at that point, you might as well sign him to a long-term deal. Whereas now playing the 1 year thing is you're pushing off the possibility in the possibility that he has the best season he could possibly have.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now you're just pushing off the chance to extend him long term. So even that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, it goes back to the leverage conversation. The Eagles have the leverage if he's under contract for another year. If he has a good year and he's under contract in 2026 for $12.9 million, they then have it's the same thing they had with
14.5. Where did I get that wrong?
It was 14.5 if he had to hit certain qualifiers to hit it. So he didn't hit those qualifiers. I think it's like 12.9 million. But it is fully guaranteed, right? And so I think that it's what you saw with Devontae Smith. The leverage that the Eagles would have is that you're another year away from hitting the open market. It compels you to sign the extension now. I think this is them making a bet that Jordan Davis is better than what he's shown. And if you don't think Jordan Davis is better than what he's shown, then it's a bad bet to make. But I do think they're looking at the delta of what, as I said, there are, I think, 26 defensive tackles making over $14 million next year, or I shouldn't say next year, with an average annual salary of 14 plus million. I think it's within the realm of possibility that Jordan Davis is in that 18 to 32 area of defensive tackles. And in that case, this is a fine bet to make. If Jordan Davis is just a situational player for you, you can get a situational player. It's what Howie Roseman said about the draft. You can sign a situational player in August. You can develop a situational player. Jordan Davis needs to be an impact player for them on a consistent basis for this to be merited.
Now, this is a little bit unfair because if Jordan Davis if he didn't have these tools in his body that allow the Eagles to believe he's going to make this jump, he wouldn't have been a first-round pick. But do you think they would have made this decision if it wasn't like Howie Roseman's first-round pick that he's sort of protecting?
It's a fair question. My answer is yes, because I think we've seen it with Jalen Reagor. Like, I think Howie's willing to move on from players, and Howie's been he has in this recent tenure he's been willing to move on from mistakes. He moved on from Carson Wentz. Right now, Carson might have forced a hand there too, but Howie hasn't been as attached. I keep going back to Reagor. He could have tried to make Reagor work. He could have tried to make JJ Arcega-Whiteside work. He didn't do that. I think he genuinely is excited about what Jordan Davis can do. But then again, this goes to the conversation that Fran and I had a few times, which was like the front office and the coaching staff. And ultimately, this has to be at this point. When Howie said he's handing it over to Nick now, it's handing it over to Vic as well.
True.
And what does Vic think of him? And that's going to be demonstrated by how much he plays.
All right, we're going to go to break in a second. The question I want to ask you after the break is the same framing of would they have made this deal if? Would they have made this deal if Jordan Davis went to LSU? We'll find out coming up on the other side. Got a nice golf polo on. Maybe I'll wear it on June 14th when we've got the PHLY golf outing, the second annual Liberty Open at Valley Brook Country Club. Shotgun start at 2 o'clock. We're combining, with Xfinity, the power of the internet and mobile all in an all-in-one plan. You can get lightning fast speeds at home and a secure network on the go. Restrictions apply. Xfinity internet is required. Actual speeds vary. And as for the golf tournament, the 4-person scramble includes a limited edition PHLY golf tee gift, prizes, and a post-round dinner and draft beer. Just one, along with a great raffle, including Philly memorabilia. Go to allphly.com/events to learn more and purchase an individual or foursome reservation for the tournament. Diehard members are eligible to save $50 on a foursome. Terms and conditions apply.
Wednesday night, that is the night. Get excited right now because on May 14th, PHLY will be hosting a special NFL schedule release extra show presented by our friends at Philly Sports Trip. It's this Wednesday coming up with coverage kicking off at 7:30 p.m. to discuss the 2025-2026 NFL season schedule. Philly Sports Trips plans outstanding trips to all these games. I see them when I'm on the road. Tune in to see the PHLY team, that includes Bo and me, reacting to the matchups coming down the pike or ahead for the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Again, the NFL schedule extra show will be held on Wednesday, May 14th, beginning at 7:30 p.m.
All right. I am curious about this.
Yeah.
Do you think that they would have picked up the option how much does the Georgia of it all play into this?
It's a fair and legitimate question because I don't need to tell you, I'm telling the audience here, but Jordan Davis is like a connective thread with the Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean. Like Keely Ringo, going down the list. He's a big part of that. And
literally.
Yeah, literally. But the Eagles, I'm shouting out the Eagles entertainment staff often.
They deserve it.
It's deserved. They had a behind the scenes of the Georgia guys back during the season, and you saw how Nakobe and Jordan Davis were like big parts of that. And Jalen Carter's kind of on the quieter side, but Jalen Carter is he's a foundational player for the Eagles. He's what Fletcher Cox was, 12, 15 years ago, right? And so if a big part of Jalen Carter is having Jordan Davis there, I don't think you're just paying him because of that. Like it has, he's not just a babysitter, he's a football player, right? But it is a fair question is that I think the Eagles really tapped into this. This Georgia connection is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just me saying it. This isn't just you saying it. I found it interesting that when Jalen Hurts was injured and he came back, one of the observations he had was like watching that Georgia connection on defense and how it manifested on the field. So I would like to think that this decision is not based on the friendship nature of it, but certainly. But
you do imagine that
it helps.
At some this is something that Howie Roseman has to think about, right?
Well, they
because
can't keep
at
all
some
of them.
point, right? Are you gonna pay Nakobe Dean?
Well, I think
all of these guys, you're gonna have to hurt somebody's feeling at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nakobe's the one here that you really need to watch. Now, maybe the injury, I don't want to say works into the Eagles' favor.
Yeah, but I know.
But he signs a show me deal to stay. But if Jahad Campbell is an off-ball linebacker, then they have their top two guys, right? I mean, Zach Bond's here the next 2 years. Jahad Campbell is presumably here the next 4 or 5 years, right?
And just to say it, Nakobe is entering the final year of his rookie
exactly.
deal. Yeah.
So I think that Nakobe's not coming back on his terms; he's coming back on the Eagles' terms.
Sure. I don't know. It seems like all those guys love Jordan Davis. And he's got a real fun personality in there. But I do wonder if that is part of the reason for picking up the fifth-year option.
He's also, as much as we say, you can find nose tackles and an average nose tackle is a relatively fungible position.
Yeah.
But it's hard to find Jordan Davis, right? Like that, you don't find 6'5", 3. I know 335 is what he's listed. Let's say 350, 6'5", 350 with that type of athletic ability. And like when,
I mean, they literally found Linval Joseph on the street in the middle of the season 2 years ago.
Yeah, but
and
I'm saying
was better.
In Jordan Davis is in his rookie year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Linval
I think,
Joseph that year was as good of a first and second down player as Jordan Davis was last year.
But I'm saying like what Jordan Davis has, you can't find. Like that size, that athletic combination. That's why he was the 14th pick in the draft.
Right. But the longer he plays without fulfilling that theoretical upside, the less it matters.
Exactly. But that's, this is the Eagles paying for future performance. Like this is the Eagles paying for what they think the player is going to become.
Yeah. Okay. My other question.
Yes.
Given the way that the whole offseason played out, right? Now that we can, the big decisions have been made, we can take a step back. They let Josh Sweat and Milton Williams go. They pay a lot of money to sign Zach Bond. They give Saquon an unprompted raise. All of the talk about like changing the way that we're structuring stuff and we need to cut cash. It kind of played out like maybe the only thing that mattered is they just didn't love CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Well,
it's like that. That's the only decision that was affected essentially. And they just used the second round pick to replace the guy.
I do think CJ Gardner-Johnson was going to want a new contract, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the cash savings was not what you were getting this year. It was what an eventual contract would be. It was making the decision: do you want to pay this guy or not? Because look, I don't know this for a fact, but if CJ Gardner-Johnson wanted a new contract, CJ Gardner-Johnson doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who would be like a wallflower about that, right?
I think that's probably sure that's part of the calculation.
You're making that calculation. He played well last year. He signed a contract coming off of a down year in Detroit, and so that is something you have to factor in. Also, like Reed Blankenship's entering the final year of his deal. Like when I did the 25-step guide going into the offseason, I said you're going to have to give one of these guys an extension, and it's going to be weird with the other guy, right? And they kind of took that decision away, right? Because now only one, and I'm not saying they're
going to get the Reed extension.
I would think he would be a good candidate for it, right? It kind of goes against what I've been speaking about, how the Eagles don't pay the middle class players. Yeah. And Reed Blankenship's contract would be in that middle class. Like he's definitely not going to be a top 5-10 paid safety. But he's going to be in that, if I use the 5 to 14 million range, he'll be in that 5 to 14 million range. So it kind of goes against what they're doing. I think that's an exception you make if he is as important as some of the players say he is. And I mean, you heard Darius Slay was very intentional when he went on his podcast, and he's like, Reed Blankenship's the leader in that room, right? And CJ didn't take too kindly to that, but like Darius Slay made sure to say that. Like he was, he repeated it a few times for effect. Like Reed Blankenship's the leader in that room. And so I do think that Reed Blankenship's the type of candidate that they would want to extend, but I don't know at what number. But you do make a good point that the big change here was that they weren't going to pay Josh Sweat, they weren't going to pay Zach Bond,
right? But they were never going to pay
Williams.
And they also made the calculation that they were going to get good comp picks for those guys, right? So it's really like the only decision. If they had all the money to spend, maybe they would have signed maybe they would have signed somebody in free agency
and Becton,
right. Yeah, but I don't think they wanted to pay Becton either.
No, but it's letting it's letting those guys leave.
Yeah, I think a lot of those were football decisions.
Really? You think Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, those were like I think
football decision in the sense that we think getting next year's third round pick is better than paying Milton Williams $26 million.
Yeah, I don't think they were paying.
Not that we don't want the player.
Yeah,
but
fair.
They're roster building decisions.
I found it. It was such an interesting anecdote from Vic Fangio when he was on Governor Shapiro's podcast. I think it was a podcast, or maybe it was just an interview.
I mean, next time he's on, you got to ask him.
Yeah, exactly.
Why isn't he having you on?
I would like to know. I mean, But I mean, Vic Fangio was awesome on that, and he's not one who just kind of talks out of his rear end. Like, so he gave the anecdote that I don't know if you caught it.
I did not.
Okay, he said they were on the bus going to the airport the morning after the Super Bowl.
Okay, morning after, got it.
And Vic Fangio happened to be sitting behind Howie on the bus.
Okay,
and Howie turns around to him and says, "Which of these three do you want to?" Which of these three do you want to keep, or which one do you want to keep the most? That's what it was. Which one do you want to keep the most? And it was clearly Zach Bond, right? But like Vic Fangio probably wouldn't say that unless that actually happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do think the Eagles went into this offseason knowing they can only keep one of those guys, right?
Yeah, and that's certainly true. I think that was also a roster building decision in addition to saving the cash. And it's also why I go back to maybe part of the impetus for Jahad Campbell is that you have a replacement plan for Zach Bond in 3 years.
Yeah.
If he is the player that you think he is, all of that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe the CJ thing was we just want to move on.
He might be like the kind of guy who you
I already know where you're going. Let's hear it. Let's get an A to Z.
No, nothing like that. Just he's
hit it and quit it is I think what you're.
No, like he's great to have at the party, but like you're not keeping him around all the time, right? Yeah. So
okay,
he's a fun night, but like
there we go. Now we got it. We got there.
No, but I'm not taking anything. I thought CJ Gardner-Johnson was a major difference for the Eagles, and I think they are going to miss CJ Gardner-Johnson in a big way because as we were doing the defensive depth chart show last week, the thing I said is like you can go through a lot of these spots and you can say even at defensive tackle, like if Moore Wojama's good this year, then I don't know if they're going to miss Milton Williams as much as the contract might suggest. And edge rusher, that's a big loss not having Sweat and not having Brandon Graham. But they have options there. Safety's the spot where I look at it, and even cornerback, I think they're fine. Like without Slay, safety's the spot where I'm not sure Makuba or Sidney Brown are going to give you what CJ Gardner-Johnson did, and there's a calculation there, and there was a major difference in the back end of the Eagles defense last year compared to 2023.
No doubt. Yeah.
So I don't say that. What's that?
Shots fired at Kevin Byard.
I mean, the proof is on the field, right? Yeah. But and I like Kevin Byard, a Philly guy. But CJ,
like the new Pope,
Chicago guy, went to Villanova. Actually, similar to Jalen Brunson, Chicago guy went to Villanova. Although Jalen Brunson grew up in South Jersey for a bit, so he just went to high school in Chicago.
Is it true that the new Pope's dad also posed as Patrick Ewing to woo women?
Is that what Rick Brunson did?
I believe so.
I did not know that. You learn something new on this show every day.
Good for the new Pope.
Yeah. Good for Rick Brunson.
No, I mean, I think it was a criminal thing.
Okay. All right, well, then I take that back.
Could be wrong, but I believe that's what it is in my mind.
Okay.
Okay. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been I'm happy you're back.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, what's
thanks to Fran, Jamie, and Rich for stepping in as well.
Yeah, what's Fatherhood Part 3 been like during the past?
It's been great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How's your sleep?
Not bad. Better than expected, I would say. Been pretty good.
How's your swaddle game?
I got a good swaddle game.
Good swaddle game.
Best swaddler in the house, no doubt.
Nice. And your diaper changing still on point?
Yep, still on point.
Like
Although I will
say
this is maybe one of the biggest differences. The muscle memory of dealing with the baby all comes back, but because I am now older, like the hunching over to change the diaper,
okay,
depending on where we're doing the diaper change, that is more like, ooh, I am an old man. Yeah.
And
that's been a big difference.
You got the double stroller going?
No, we got a single stroller with a little board for
Jane. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How's Jane handling that? The board.
Good.
Yeah. Good.
Okay. She just got her splint off from her broken arm, so she's feeling great.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
So things looking up in the Wolf household.
She went right back to the monkey bars. It took her 2 days.
You show them. I'd like that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Tons Totally unscared.
Fall down 7 times, stand up 8.
I mean, I hope it's not 7. It's already been 3, but yeah, okay. All right, let's take our second break. We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about some things that have happened with the Eagles over the past couple weeks and whatever else is on your mind. We start with our friends at Parx Casino. One thing that I love about Parx Casino is the BetParx app. All the games we love to play in person at Parx Casino, like pop culture slots, roulette, cards, dice games, and more, can also be played on the BetParx app. Parx Online Casino has the games you love, whether you're at home or on the go. Download the BetParx app and create an account today to receive an offer you can't pass up. New users are eligible to receive up to $1,000 right back in your pocket if you are down in the first 24 hours after signing up. BetParx Online Casino is available to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Michigan residents. Terms and conditions apply. Parx Casino, this is how you win. Must be 21 and over. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Been having a lot of catches with my son recently, and it's been sunny out, and you know,
sun and sunny, nice
yeah.
job.
So he's throwing a little, I don't want to say a high pop, but enough that I'm looking up to catch the ball. And this was over the weekend, and I was like, hold on one second, I need to go get my sunglasses. So I run inside and I get my Shady Rays, and that's because it's never too early to start thinking about summer. It's baseball season. It's never too early to think about the sun. Our friends at Shady Rays are helping you get in the right frame of mind with the premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their sunglasses have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. If you're a skier or snowboarder, Shady Rays has a brand new collection of snow goggles to help you see clearly and look good on the slopes. But why am I talking about skiing and snowboarding? It's May 8th. The shore's down the corner or around the corner down that way. And, you're going to want your Shady Rays for shore season. You also know that with so many colors available, you'll find a pair that's perfect for you. So if you want Phillies sunglasses, you can get the blue and red Shady Rays. If you don't love your shades, exchange them for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. PHLY viewers and listeners, go to shadyrays.com and save 35% off polarized sunglasses with code PHLY. Over 300,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars, so use code PHLY today at shadyrays.com.
I have a locker room question for you.
I like this.
2 years in a row now, the Eagles have strong-armed a long-time player on the team into taking a pay cut. How do you think that goes over?
Fair question. How do I think it goes over? I think that the players understand the business side of it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like the players who are at a point to care about the contract negotiations know how this stuff works. I think this is why, and in talking, I learned this. I didn't know this as much when I started covering the NFL, and I've learned it more covering the NFL, that when there's no guaranteed money left on a contract, players often look at that like that year doesn't exist on the contract almost, right? And so not to say that Dallas Goedert and Josh Sweat saw this coming, but I think both of them realized that when that guaranteed money's not there, that's why either the team's getting ahead of it or the players getting ahead of it. And that was always the crux, by the way, of the Hassan Reddick situation, was there's no guaranteed money after that year on his contract. So that's why he wanted to get a new deal when he did. And the Eagles, if Bryce Huff had a good year last year, he'd be entering into year 2 and he wouldn't have guaranteed money in year 3. It's kind of the way the Eagles structure these 3-year deals. It's like it would have been the case with Saquon Barkley, right? After this season. So how do I think it goes over? I think they get it. I think that at this stage of the roster building, Howie kind of has enough. Look, I mean, the Eagles extended Jordan Mailata. They extended their whole offensive line. 4 guys in their offensive line. They gave Saquon Barkley that deal. So I think players recognize that the Eagles pay players. But you are right. Now, they've forced players, or they strong arm players, to use your term, to take pay cuts when there was no guaranteed money left on the deal. I think that was the key. So that when there's no guaranteed money, the team holds the leverage more than the player.
Yeah, I just, from these guys have been here forever.
Sure.
And if you're playing the lock them up early to a team-friendly deal, like at first they did with both of those guys, right? It's hard. It's a little bit untoward to then come after them and say, you don't deserve this anymore. But I don't know.
And the other thing too is part of the pitch.
That is the business, as you said.
Part of the pitch to them is you'll be a free agent after this year, and without violating any conversations that were, this was an on the record conversation with Josh Sweat. It was a casual one, but it wasn't off the record. He had never had a contract year before.
Yeah.
Right. Like he was, and neither had Dallas Goedert. Part of the thing when the Eagles sign these guys to extensions is they're never playing for a new deal. So I'm not saying that Josh Sweat had the year he had last year because he was playing for a new deal, but it's intrinsic motivation in football, in podcasting. If you're on a contract, right, and you're in the last year of your deal, you want to do well. Ooh. Right? So
now I'm interested. Tell me more.
No, it's just when I'm in the last year of my deal, my shows better be on the top of my game. My articles better be on top of my game. The same way Dallas Goedert is coming off, from a negotiation perspective. If Dallas Goedert had the year he had 3 years ago, or in 2022, he had a strong year in 2022, he would have more leverage than in a year when he was injured and he had not just his fewest overall catches, yards, touchdowns since his rookie season, but on a per game basis too, the production was down. Now, part of that was the Eagles were running the ball, but nonetheless, this is, teams look at that and they say, this is your age 30 season. He turns 31, I think, January 2nd.
I think his per route numbers were still very high, though.
Per route number, okay, yeah. Fair.
Because this was a run-first offense.
It was a run-first offense, but I think that, Dallas Goedert needs to show that he's the player that I think he is, and that certainly I know he thinks he is.
Now, Daniz would wonder how much Saquon is going to be paying Dallas to make up for his pay cut.
I mean, Saquon's will probably be thrilled about this, right? Based on that.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think if they had traded Dallas Goedert?
Yeah.
Let's say the Colts, they got pipped on Tyler Warren, and they come to the Eagles for Dallas Goedert. What do you think? What would have been reasonable terms?
2025-4. I'm sorry, 2026. 2026 4. I think is what
that could go to a third.
That could go to a third, exactly. Yeah, if he makes the Pro Bowl, that kind of thing. And then Chris, and then Ballard says, "You've done this to me before, Howie. I'm not doing any playing time incentives this time."
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay. I think this team. It always made more sense for them to keep the player than to get that pick.
But
when they're already getting picks next year from all the free agent departures, they haven't added anything else to the offense. It's just, I think that this is the way that it was going.
Yeah, but you look at it George Kittle's in his age 31 season, and I know Kittle's been a better player than Goddard, but Kittle got a big deal in his age 31 season. Yeah, Evan Ingram, he's 30, turns 31 this year, and he got over $10 million a year from the Broncos. So that is a position that it's. I think the fundamental difference between Josh Sweat and Dallas Goedert here is Josh Sweat went into free agency at age 28. Dallas Goedert's going to go into free agency at age 31. Now, as I wrote on allphly.com, 31 for a tight end is not, teams still pay 31-year-old tight ends. But if Dallas Goedert was on the open market this year, I personally think he would have been the top tight end on the open market. I think he would have been more attractive than Evan Ingram was. That said, Trey McBride gets a huge deal. George Kittle gets a huge deal. Dallas Goedert had to take a pay cut.
Yeah,
I imagine that's humbling for Dallas Goedert.
I would imagine so. There's no doubt that the injury stuff plays a huge factor here. I mean, he's missed 23 games over the past 5 seasons. He hasn't, he's had only one season when he played more than 14 games, and he played 10 last year as he's getting older. There's no doubt that that's a huge part here.
And now, does it concern you that the Eagles don't have a tight end under contract other than Cameron Latu beyond this season.
Huge other than.
Yeah. So effectively, there's not a position on the roster where there's this type of uncertainty beyond this season than tight end. This is very much like this is the only spot where the Eagles are like, F it, we're gonna win this year. We're gonna try to win this year, and we'll figure it out next year.
It doesn't concern me a ton because, you're not worried about filling out the back end of the roster, right? They'll be able to sign Calcaterra or Granson or Bryant to a cheap deal to be the tight end 2 if they want next year, depending on how the season plays out. It's more just they're going to have to replace Dallas Goedert. They're going to need to find their tight end 1.
Kyle Pitts is a free agent. Just want to say that. Let me ask you. I'm fascinated. I'm not going to be in tomorrow. I don't want to say unfortunately. My daughter has an assembly that she's singing at, so I'll be there. But I love your shadow draft, and I've been eager for 2 weeks to find out who your second round pick is in the shadow draft. And I say that because if I did now the great thing that you do with the shadow draft is that you do it when you're on the clock. That's the real way to do it, right?
Yeah, although on day 3 things got away from me a little bit, but yes.
But there's another way to do it. It's not a technical shadow draft, but if you just look at how the draft board went and you say, knowing how it fell, what pick would you done differently? I do wonder if the Eagles would have gone Fannin at 64, knowing that he goes to the Browns 3 picks later.
Yeah,
and then you see maybe Makuba falls into the middle of the 3rd round, and then you trade up from 90.
Well, are we sure that the Eagles were super interested in these tight ends in Mason Taylor and Harold Fannin? They didn't bring in any tight ends for a pre-draft visit.
So you think this was the plan all along? You think?
I don't think it was. I think it might have been plan A.
Okay.
But I think they needed to be prepared for if it wasn't a possibility.
I mean, look,
they would have drafted somebody.
I think this was.
But I think if they were really worried about this, they would have drafted someone on day 3. They had 8 picks on day 3, right?
I mean, I'm fairly confident that. Well, to answer that question, and we said this on day 3, there was a big drop off at that position after 5 guys. 5 guys went in the first 70 picks. I wrote before the draft, the Eagles aren't going to take a tight end just for the sake of taking a tight end. They're not going to take a tight end just to fill their roster out because there was a clear drop-off there. No disrespect to Rondé Getson, who went to a team, by the way, it's terrific at evaluating tight ends. Just want to say. That said...
Your boy. I was surprised you didn't mention this when you guys were doing the player comp episode, which is a very good episode, I thought.
Thank you.
When Fran was talking about how accurate Kyle McCord was downfield, and I thought that was your chance to say, well, yeah, because he was throwing to the catch radius of Rondé Getson.
Yeah. So at the event we had on Tuesday night, the Die Hard event,
How'd it go?
Was awesome. It was awesome. I mean, Fran's incredible. I say it all the time, but he kept the audience's attention for 3 hours plus.
Right.
It was,
How many mice showed up?
I didn't see any, but
that's good.
There was leftover food, or there was a lot of food in the trash. So I imagine after I left,
late night, yeah.
But I said to Vince, I said, I saw on the website this is 5:30 to 9. Is that really what it is? And he's like, no, it'll be wrapped up by 8.
No chance.
I mean, no, it was 8 o'clock. We're still in the 4th. We're still doing Ty Robinson. Yeah.
That's funny.
And so he finishes up after 3 hours. And I thought, if you're a West Wing fan in the final season, Arnold Vinnick did one of those takes every question until there's no question press conferences.
Of course, we all remember.
And so I thought it was going to be he just wore everybody out. No, they want to do the undrafted players.
Get their money's worth.
It was awesome, yeah. And it's 9 o'clock. Emily's been texting me what time are you gonna get home? What time are you gonna get home? And so Fran. But it was awesome. Fran broke the stuff he was breaking down was great. But then when he was doing Kyle McCord, I wanted to purposely not speak unless Fran asked me something or unless someone in the audience asked me something. But I wanted to be look at this tight end here, right? Look at this tight end. But what I was going to get to was I think the coaching staff in particular, this was their plan A. The coaching staff wanted Goddard back. And I think,
And why wouldn't they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and again, we always talk like Howie's job is different than Nick's job. It's different than Jason Michael's job. But what Deniz talks about in terms of the running game is absolutely the case. What Dallas Goedert gives the Eagles in the passing game, especially with yards after the catch. You and I have spoken. I think this offense is going to be more pass heavy than it was last year. Goddard's a big part of that. And I would go as far as to say that I think the Eagles are going to, well, I think the offense is going to be better this year, but I think the offense's DVOA this year is going to be better than the defense's DVOA. And we can have, I'm going to do like a prediction article, and we'll do a prediction show during the summer, but I think this is going to be a better offense than the defense.
Why? Because this is my big picture takeaway from the offseason is that we are expecting the defense to take a step back. It has to take a step back. It can't be the best defense in football again. Where is that improvement coming from on the offense, aside from just continuity? Because they haven't added anybody to the offense, and they've got a lot of guys who are the second half of their career, who are getting older, and you've got a new offensive scheme to implement.
Well, I think they have more guys who are just in the primes of their career, honestly. Like, I think that, you know, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, you know, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, right there, primes of their career. And I could put Saquon in that category. I didn't put Saquon in because
he can't be as good as he was this year.
Exactly. But like AJ, Devontae, Jalen need to be better than they were last year.
I think the faith in the offense taking that leap is almost entirely Jalen Hurts. We are expecting Jalen Hurts to have a great year.
Exactly. And I mean, AJ Brown is like that good. Devontae Smith is that good. It would surprise me if Devontae Smith is a sub 1,000 yard receiver again, right? It would surprise me if A.J. Brown is not like an elite player this year. And so for that to happen, Jalen needs to have a better passing season than he had last year.
And I think, I agree that they are going to tilt the knob a little bit more in that direction. And we'll find out about the Patullo offense.
What was your view of the proposal?
What proposal?
AJ's proposal.
Oh, I didn't see it.
You didn't see it?
I just saw the headline that he got engaged.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, he posted the video.
I mean, I was trying to be
you're trying to
much less online.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, first off, he brought John Legend in.
Oh yeah, I saw that John Legend was involved. Okay.
Yeah, and it was a huge thing at the Four Seasons.
Okay.
I think
Philly?
In Philly here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he
They go to the very top?
Yes.
Okay.
I think he's convinced, or I shouldn't say convinced. I think he sold it as he was going to an award show.
I like that.
And then
it's good to have the status that you can just convince someone that I've got an award show to go to.
Yeah, or something something like that. So he was dressed up, she was dressed up, and I mean it was incredible, right? Like it was well done. But calling in John Legend, that's a high bar. That's to set. Yeah.
How did you propose to Emily?
I proposed to Emily. I mean, I can give you the story if you want. I mean, I don't know if the audience needs to hear the story.
It's up to you. You don't have to share it if you don't.
I proposed her on the porch, on a porch down the shore when I was reading. The thing is this: when I first met Emily, she thought that she thought I was a little boring because we spoke about the shore.
I read this somewhere lately,
and I said to her that she asked me what I'd like to do down the shore, and I said I'd like to read, which is true. Like I wasn't closing down the Chelsea at the time. That was a nightclub that was popular back when we were like in our 20s, and I wasn't closing down the Chelsea. I was reading Rick Riley, or no, he wasn't writing then. I was reading Sports Illustrated and books, and that's what I like to do during my free time during the summers. I like to read, and so I proposed to her while I was reading on the porch as a callback.
Hopefully not while you were reading, but
no, she walked out there, and I was.
It's a good callback.
It was all
romantic.
Planned, and then and
now,
I had a whole thing.
Retroactively, if you could have hired any singer to help with the proposal, who would it have been? Who would have been your John Legend?
Adam Sandler.
Oh, Julia's favorite song.
Yeah, Grow Old With You. Yeah, I love that song, and I sing it. I sing it now Even so, that's like the one song that I sang to my kids. So
Okay.
I've written. I'm giving way too much here. This was fun the last 3 weeks when I didn't have to give any personal information. I've written lyrics to it
Julia's favorite movie.
that are specific to Emily and me.
Wow.
that I
Now
sing.
that is a side of the romance we have not heard before.
Well, no, and it's with the kids too.
Okay.
Right? And so like
Julia's gonna cry.
So like there's a line in, it's not from The Wedding Singer, it's from Adam Sandler's Act Now, where he says, all I need is you and me and Sadie and Sonny.
Okay.
And so, in mine, it's all I need is you and me and Reedy and Sloaney. So something like that. So
That's
anyways, yeah. But that would be, it's a powerful song. So,
That's great.
yeah.
All right.
What about you?
What about me?
How did you propose?
I proposed in front of our apartment when we were living on 4th and Bainbridge, and I had a photographer there to take pictures.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And if you could have any singer there, who would it be?
Good question. I should have thought about the answer since I asked the question myself. Probably you.
Me? No, you don't want me. No.
I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I don't think that would have been the way that I would have gone.
What was your wedding song? What'd you dance to?
We were introduced to That Thing You Do.
Okay, and how about your first dance?
If I Could Write a Book.
Really?
Yes.
I don't know that song.
Well,
I should listen to it.
There you go. How about you?
So my our first song was The Way You Look Tonight. The song that our first dance rather was The Way You Look Tonight, and then I walked down the aisle, with my mom to Don't Worry, Be Happy.
Oh, your favorite song?
Yeah, my favorite song. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
There you go. All right. Fran says Duran Duran because he's making a Hungry Like a Wolf joke. I believe we do have a super chat.
And I apologize. I did not read a super chat in yesterday's show.
Oh my gosh.
We got it, and I apologize.
Let's check out the super chat from CDP, who says, I like to think that people are better than their worst selves, but what if one's worst self is their true self? What can we expect from Bryce Huff? I'm
not sure Bryce Huff's going to be on the team this year.
Interesting. Tell me more.
Well, post June 1st, it's easier, from a cap perspective. And we always talk about cash, but the cash doesn't matter with Bryce Huff because he's guaranteed he's guaranteed the money. So you care more about the cap in Bryce Huff's case. And in Bryce Huff's case, so you can manage the cap more post June 1st. And so, look, if he's not if he's going to be inactive, then you don't need, the calculation needs to be, can he provide enough value for your team? It's a sunk cost at this point, from my perspective. Now, they might say that there's more to be written in the Bryce Huff story. That very well might be the case. But if he's not going to be a part of your edge rusher rotation,
but who's to
you
say
look
that
to
he
trade
won't?
him. Oh, I'm not saying. Yeah. He could be. He was inactive for the Super Bowl. Now it's a different.
They lost Josh Sweat.
They lost Josh Sweat, of course. They lost Brandon Graham. He was active for the Super Bowl. I don't know if Azeez Ojulari or Josh Uche is going to. I don't know if Antoine Powell-Ryland is going to be that player for you. So Bryce Huff, he might very well be their number 2 edge rusher this year, right? Like he could be there above Jalen Hurts. Bryce Huff he's shown that he can be that player.
Sure.
Fran made a point in the film session that was terrific. That was like speed rushers tend to have the year-to-year variance that some other players don't have. Did we miss?
Do we need to go? Oh, we've got 10 seconds because we started a little bit late. I'm going to let you do it, Zach. I want to hear more about what you think Bryce Huff's future in Philadelphia is in
overtime.
Now, you hit the overtime before the graphic. I like to hit it after.
Okay.
Interesting. I like where people in the chat are going through where they've proposed.
So I do it before the graphic because if you're listening on audio, then you say in, and then there will be a break, and then you say overtime. I like to say in overtime, and then there's the break for the audio listener, so they know
I like the dramatic pause.
what you're getting into. Yeah, so it's a good question there. Which one's better? I don't. I'm not saying Bryce Huff's not going to be on the team. I think Bryce Huff will very much be available.
I just don't know what the purpose would be of moving on from him in June. Why not just see what he has in training camp?
Yeah, okay. That's what I'm saying. I think the Bryce Huff situation this year is comparable to the James Bradbury situation last year, where you're bringing him to camp, you're going to see what he has to offer, but you're not.
You're going to keep him on the roster anyway.
But you're not like you're not building your game plan around Bryce Huff. Or you're not building around Bryce Huff being a contributing player. Whereas this time last year, we were talking about Bryce Huff as the top edge rusher on the team.
Yeah. No, I think it's a little different than Bradbury in. Well, I mean, he was in the secondary, so there are spots to go around. But I think there is, like, in theory at least, there should still be a role that Bryce Huff could play. Yeah. Even at the diminished capacity he was last year. But I think they'll wait and see.
They'll wait and see. It's going to be an important thing to monitor during training camp.
Super chat from Steve Whitaker, who just says, "Welcome back, Bo." Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that.
No, I was self-conscious the other day because Fran thought you would be offended by the Met Gala thing.
The Met Gala thing.
Yeah. Now, I meant it as a compliment. Like, because I made sure that I said I didn't think you would want to attend the Met Gala, but I think you would know about the Met Gala more than I would. And I think, first off, I think it's very much a part of, like, the New York.
It's not.
It's not? Okay.
No.
Have you been to the Met in New York?
I have been to the Met.
Okay. We talked about that offset. The only time I've been to the Met was to interview John Mara, leading into this. They had like a Super Bowl press conference there one time.
Okay. When
the Meadowlands was
very classy place to have a press conference.
It was over breakfast but that was I took the subway, or I took the path to the subway. Anyways, did I offend you with that?
I'm gonna disappoint you and Fran here in that I don't really have a strong take on it.
Okay.
Maybe it's maybe this
post-birth
afterglow. It's just hard to get worked up. But I don't know a lot about the Met Gala. I have no idea what goes on inside. But I wasn't offended.
Okay.
Sorry.
Did you see what
I remember? My favorite Met Gala memory is the year that Bernard Gilkey was there and Butch Husky. And
did they really go to that?
Fernando
the New York.
Vina,
You're doing the New York Mets. I see what you did. Okay, I see what you did there.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there was a huge article on ESPN.com today about.
What do you think of Jalen's fit?
Well, I'm more into like an understated fit, but understated doesn't go in the Met Gala.
Sure, that's not the
not the intent. I mean, Jalen pulled it off great.
That looked great.
Yeah, it looked great. Him and his wife. Congratulations to Jalen, by the way.
Thank you.
I don't think I ever congratulated him on the show. If he's watching,
I'll pass it along.
If he's watching in overtime, congratulations. Yeah. He looked. I mean, Jalen once said that you make the clothing, right? Like you make things look good, and Jalen pulls it off well. Good for Jalen.
Okay. What else you got? Shout out to the Met.
There you go. Unclair says Jalen looked A++. Yeah, plus 3 pluses. I was worried that I offended you. That was not my intention whatsoever. I thought it was a compliment. Like I
didn't take it as a compliment. But
I think of the three of us, you are most in tune with like the cultural zeitgeist. If there's a popular film that's being talked about at the Met Gala, you would probably know what that film is my guess.
I mean, the further you walk along this line, the closer you approach offense. But that's okay.
Okay.
All right. Jalen and Bree were lovely. Do you guys think Bree will let me borrow her dress for the Ospreys? Asks cousin Grace.
Sure. I think there's there's a website that I think you can rent like dresses, right? That's
true.
I remember during wedding seasons, like that was
Rent the Runway.
Yes. I didn't want to give them free plug. They can advertise with us.
Yeah, there's got to be competitors too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, check that out.
Check that out.
Maybe she put it on. Yeah. Maybe she put it on there. I don't know. I mean, there are, it seems ridiculous. I shouldn't even open my mouth.
Too late.
But yeah, it seems ridiculous that like there's this. I'm sure this isn't always the case, but that like women sometimes think that you can only wear a dress one time. Like You know, like no, you like I have one suit that I wear for everything.
This offends your miserly sensibilities.
It's just it's like you should be able to just wear the same dress to every wedding. You know, you probably look great, and you know you're happy with how you look. Wear it to every wedding. You don't
Have you suggested that to Emily?
I'm trying to stay married. Yes.
Polar Jam with the super chat says, "How did Bo feel about ZB's opinion that Bo and Fran are practice watcher snobs?"
I've said this to you, not snobs. That you're an astute observer. That you're not a small talker at practice.
Yeah, but that is not how you framed it.
But you and Fran,
we were unapproachable.
I mean, look, okay, you and Fran are watching O-line, D-line.
Yeah.
An intern for the News Journal comes up to you and is like, it's like, you know, he's real nervous or she's real nervous. And it's like, you know, Bo, I'm a huge fan of your work. I'm a fan of your show. Like, you're not going to get into a conversation about, oh, where do you go to school? Like, what?
Well, I'm not going to be an a-hole, but
no,
I'll
but
say, I might say, like, thank you so much for saying hi. And then when the period's over, I'll talk to the person.
Okay, yeah, but I'm saying you're focused.
Well, I'm there to do a job.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's not snobbish.
Are you not?
No, but I think that, you know, I'm very worried on the days when I'm doing the notes that I don't miss something. But the other days, like, look.
That's the only chance we get to really watch football.
I agree, but I have a hard time like not engaging with someone when they come up and say hello. So if anything, it's like you can't wear AirPods during it, but that's like the only way that because for some reason, yeah, I'm talking to different people during practice.
You're a magnet.
I'm not saying a magnet. I'm just saying that I get I get people asking questions and I engage in the conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean. That's what I'm there for.
I wasn't by no means.
This is a larger personality fault or strength, depending on how you look at it. Of mine is that I'm not good at faking it. This is a separate thing, but like, you know, if I'm at a party and there's somebody who I don't like, and then want to come over and talk to me, I'm not gonna engage in that conversation for like a happy 15 minutes.
Yeah. So you and I are different there.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that. And actually one of the things Emily really wants me to work on next football season and off season. So the whole year, June is to say no more to things.
Yeah, she's right.
But then this is my rebuttal to that. Okay. I encroach on other people's, like, players, coaches.
Sure.
I'm expecting them or hoping that they give me their time, right? So I feel as if I owe people that same, you know, if I have that expectation for people I cover, then someone who's interested in my time, I owe it to them to say yes. Like that's my view on it. But
well, yeah, I think that's fair, but there are certain things that don't fall under that category.
And there have been times, like, especially because my son is playing sports now, and my daughter has like recitals and stuff. Those are more during the day, but sports at night. And I'm missing games that I really want to be at because I'm committed to a gig that, like.
Yeah, you're allowed to say I have another thing on my schedule.
So that's something that this has been a point of contention in the past few weeks that really needs to be rectified moving forward.
Well, good thing you won't have a book to sell again, right?
September 23rd, okay, and I will be working that circuit hard because I was at an event on Friday and someone asked me about, you know, writing the book, and I said, opportunity is not a lengthy visitor.
Never heard that before.
Yeah, but the person asked me about writing a fourth book, and I said I'm going to write. My fourth book will be on how to stay married. Because I'm not going to write like, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl.
I would read that book.
No, I'm saying, I was making a joke. I was like, I'm not, I hope to write a fourth book one day, but it won't be next year. And so I will say on the show right now, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl in 2026, I will not write a full-length book. Okay? Perhaps there's like a young adults book that I can squeak out. But
now you're saying that takes no skill.
No, it just doesn't take. But I will not write a full length book next off season because
what is the season outcome that would force you to go back on that word? There must be something.
If they went undefeated, the perfect season, right?
Okay.
I mean, that would sell.
If they name Emily GM.
Yeah, I don't think Howie's giving up his perch, but yeah, I mean, I did kind of promise that I'm not doing a book next offseason, so.
I mean, I cannot believe that you threw in the full length qualifier there. That is outrageous.
Yeah. Well, Reed does want me to write a children's book, and shout out to Brandon Graham. He has a children's book out this weekend. This week is some book signings coming up, but. Reed wants me to write a children's book, and because I read to the kids and I read the book in one night, and I'm like, man, I just uprooted my entire life to write this book.
Well, that's a different craft. Though.
Exactly.
You got to get every word right.
Exactly. I agree. Economy of language.
Okay. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. I missed this.
Sorry you won't be here tomorrow. I guess some people are committed to this show and some are not. But
this assembly's at 1:30. I was trying to figure out.
Joking. I was gone.
I know, but I said to Emily, I was like, "How long do you think?"
I am proud of you
because
for choosing that.
Because there's a chance that I was like, if it wraps up in 30 minutes, I could find a spot to do it remote. But
Zach,
yeah,
I think this is personal growth. I am proud of you for choosing not to do the show tomorrow.
Well, thank you.
Okay, that'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening. Thanks to Julia for making it happen. Thanks again to everybody who helped out while I was gone. We'll be back tomorrow. Fran in the saddle. We're going to go over the shadow draft. Maybe Fran will do one of his own, compare how they look to the Eagles draft class, all that good stuff. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. For all of us here, we thank you for watching and listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.